Our speakers today will present the benefits of achieving digitally twinned assets in an SAP digitally transformed organisation. Benefits that not only improve profitability through improved planning, maintenance and operations, but also improve the carbon footprint of those assets, thereby significantly supporting your organisation's green agenda. Irrespective of industry, it is more vital than ever for organisations to transform digitally. The IDC have predicted that by 2022, just next year, 65% of global GDP will come from digitally transformed organisations. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the need for digital by 20%. We at Rizing today will show you how we can accelerate your own digital journey. Our panel of presenters are amongst the asset industry's most respected professionals in their field. We'll be joined by Shubham, who leads our business development function across EMEA and is an expert himself in asset information. Harm Yan, one of the industry's most respected solution architects in SAP EAM, has decades of experience in leading customers to digital utopia. But before I let our speakers loose on you, we'll talk a little bit about Rizing. Next slide, please. Formed in 2005, we've spent the last decade, two and a half decades, helping organisations implement SAP solutions. We have nearly 1,300 very well qualified consultants distributed globally, who are also supported by digital development centres with in-country subject matter experts supporting them in various locations. Whilst we're global experts in human capital management, consumer industries and geospatial, today's focus will be specifically on enterprise asset management. Slide 4, please. Our presenters will describe the digital asset journey from cradle to grave, as depicted in our interpretation of the asset lifecycle in this slide. By 2023, anything that can be connected to the internet will be connected to the internet. Research from futureagenda.org demonstrates that connected objects are generating 40 trillion gigabytes of data that has an impact on daily life in one way or another. This data will make known about us things that were previously unknown or unknowable. And very relevant to today's webinar, data is not just about people. Things are already generating data, and these are predicted to generate an additional value add of $1.9 trillion globally over the next 5 years. Much of the value is not likely to be from the things themselves, but from the understanding derived about them from the data that is collected. This promises to transform every sector, bringing efficiencies and cost savings, but also entirely new service possibilities when assets are managed properly. Our time today won't allow us to deep dive on every step of the journey, but we will explore as many as we can. There'll also be an opportunity to challenge our presenters with very challenging questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, I have pleasure to hand over to Shubham.
Thank you, Andy, for such a nice introduction. I would like to start with talking about some of the challenges which we all are experiencing during our transition programs, our digital journeys. If we talk about the business point of view, we see that there's a lot of investment has been going on in terms of the improvement programs. Giving an example, if we talk about moving an organization from breakdown or shutdown based maintenance towards preventive maintenance or even to the predictive maintenance, we spend millions of dollars and euros to really make that step change. And many times what get missed out is the realization of the benefits at a later stage, how much we are improving on the OEE side of the things, how much we are improving in terms of the maintenance cost reduction. So those improvement and the tracking of the value realized, it's quite difficult to really monitor it and really get to understand those details. Similarly, when it comes about demonstrating to technical authorities about the technical integrity, that's where we see that there are a good amount of challenges there, lacking the visibility on performance to really see that there are certain breakdowns happening, there are certain cracks which are required to be filled, and we are not able to get to the root causes of the problem. When we are onto our transition journey, it's very important that we take people along with us, our organization, the people with us. And it requires actually a lot of competency and skills in the future and the to be scenario, the technology which we are going to use, the behavior of people should be changed. There's a lot of investment is required around the trainings, around upscaling their skills. And their organizations are facing a lot of challenges around these things, to really have the competent resources in place, to really have the right skill level, to really increase the maturity level and exploit the systems to its full capability. Another important area is process, where we see that there is a lot of improvement which organizations are achieving. Giving you an example, if we talk about the process improvement, we would require to make our processes as close as possible to the industry standards. In the case of, for example, on projects, we are collecting a lot of information during a project from the original equipment manufacturer, suppliers, and the EPC contractors. And we can really make this whole process very much streamlined if we adopt to a standard like CFOs, which is like Capital Facility Information Handover Specifications, which not just give you a consistent set of requirements which you would need to ask to your suppliers, but also helps you in the operational readiness, but also when you would need to move to the next level, when the changes are happening in the industry, you can really adopt it because an organization is working towards continuously improving those standards. So this is about being close to your industry standards in different areas. I talked about project, but also related to reliability related to data model, maintenance, safety. There is a lot of work which has been done and companies are already doing around the processes, but this is one of the area where companies are facing challenges in terms of the overall asset information governance, in terms of having a structured approach when they get into a transition journey. So these are the few challenges around the processes which companies are facing currently. In terms of technology, companies, they have a lot of applications already in place, and what many times got missed is the utilization of those technology to the full extent. So for example, people are already moving from SAP ECC to S4 HANA, and from the out of box package of S4 HANA, you have the capabilities of portfolio and project management. But the companies who are already using their own way of managing portfolio and projects traditionally, they don't make that change to really use those particular features from S4 HANA to manage their complete project and portfolio using SAP PPM, which integrates very well already with your FICO, so that you can have the cost control around your project spending, and even your small projects like plant modifications and others can be governed, and the project planning can be done in a more efficient manner. So this is another area where companies are facing challenges when we talk about technology. And if you see, this is not an exhaustive list. These are some of the challenges we are talking about. If you see that you would like to share more challenges, please feel free to drop into the comment box, and we can discuss this during our Q&A session. Last on this list is about the about organizations having a very complex IT landscape and moving forward, and to really ensure that you have a futuristic, bright view of the IT landscape. Companies would like to simplify it. And to give you an example that how complex an IT landscape could be, this is a kind of a example. It's really complex for large organizations, the way they are using the applications across different business functions, and it requires a very holistic approach when we are addressing these challenges into our digitalization journey. Before I move into the digitalization journey, I would like to talk further on the industry's trends. And I just selected few of the industries, asset-intensive industries. And these are the few challenges or few trends which you see here on this slide, which these industries are undergoing currently. If I talk about oil and gas segment, the portfolio diversification is big on the agenda. Uh, Reducing their fixed and operating cost is quite important. Managing the fluctuations in terms of the low price or price fluctuation, or actually the supply and demand mismatch which is happening. There is a rise in the environmental and social responsibilities from the Paris agreements, from the other climate specific initiatives. So there's a lot happening in oil and gas with respect to this. If you talk about the chemical industry, we're talking about more climate sensitivity, also around using the right material, raw material, which can contribute to our circular economy, using the right material into their assets so that it can be recycled at a later stage, ensuring that we work towards asset longevity so that assets can be utilized in a more sustainable manner, and many more. Uh, One thing which we see here is that across industries, the trends have some level of commonality. If I talk about the low carbon footprints, the climate resilience, or regulations, or sustainability, there is a commonalities between the trends across industries, and so do there is a commonality between the initiatives which are happening to really support these trends. And to name a few of the initiatives which are common across industry segments, includes the integration of geographically distributed assets using GIS, and further integrating it with SAP or any other ERP system, process harmonization, supply chain optimization, which we see because during the COVID time, it becomes really important that we have to realign our supply chain, the optimization of shutdown and turnaround planning, scheduling, and execution. Cybersecurity is a big thing currently in the agenda of all the organizations. Overall improvement of the performance of the assets by using the latest technologies. So that's on the high agenda because the maximizing the output from the existing asset is of very is quite important. Clear view of the asset health because we don't want to lose the revenue and the production if we are not taking the proper attention on the asset health. uh, Inventory management, integrated maintenance, mobility, and all. Uh, and one thing now which I would like to highlight here that these all initiatives are happening, but one thing which is very important and helps actually to get the best benefits out of these initiatives is accurate information. If we have the accurate information, if we have the right data in place, it supports actually to make all these initiatives even more efficient and effective. And that's the main thing we would like to talk in this session further around how to reach to a digital twin. And you can see that we are talking about a very complex situation over here. We are talking about asset intensive industries, be it oil and gas, chemical, transportation, defense. These are all asset intensive industries, and with the plants with thousands of assets and billion and trillions of data fields we are talking about. So it's quite complex scenario and a complex journey. And from my experience, that how we can really make this whole journey and address it in a structured manner, this is what we are going to cover in the subsequent slides. To start with, I would like to have a common understanding around digital twin, that what exactly we are referring when we talk a digital twin. So it is about a real-time reflection of physical asset. We all know that asset is already going through a very or is a very there's a very complex life cycle of an asset, and the only change which is constant for a asset is change. So asset is continuously changing right from the planning to commissioning, maintenance activities, transformation, plant modifications. This continuous change happening for an asset throughout the life cycle. And we are talking about a digital replica of it in real time. So if you see on the right hand side over here, we're talking about a trusted digital twin with the accurate both static data. So for example, the engineering information like from the PNIDs, from the schematics, from the physical data, all those kind of a thing, location data, to a very dynamic data, which includes your production data, process data. So all these data, if we have in a real time for a particular asset, and then with a combination of asset for a plant or the combination of plant to a site, then we are actually getting the digital replication of our physical assets. And definitely a common data model has a very important role to play to achieve this situation. Once we have a digital twin, we have then the opportunity to utilize it during for all our initiatives, which we discussed already in the previous slide, and also to further optimize this data and innovate on top of this data using the technologies like analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and others. Now, in terms of the starting this digital journey, we would like to actually, it's very important to see from the business processes point of view that where to start, right? And while we ensure that the doors are open for the future innovation, it becomes very important that we first evaluate before going into technology and the solution, that what is the current stage of your asset, how different activities of the asset life cycle we are addressing, and what improvements we would need to achieve. So why do we need to transition and then the first step is to evaluate, and we'll talk about it in more detail. Then comes the technology, and then it comes about the value delivery, that these are the processes which we would like to improve, and this is how we would need to further do the transition and create a value delivery for each business processes and function which is associated with the, and ensuring that all the code's four main pillars of the of our organization, that is people, process, system, and data, we keep in account of all four of them. When we go further into the site assessments, and just I would like to talk about the objectives of site assessment, to ensure that we are laying a very robust base for the digital transformation. So rather than going to a very big bang and really pushing the sites to adapt what to a latest technology, it's better to really assess the asset situation of the assets, to really evaluate the current status of the sites across business functions, then aligning them with the ongoing initiatives. Every plant, every site has some of the ongoing initiatives which are going on. So it's pretty important to really see that where they are already with respect to their initiatives, how those initiatives can really be bundled up or can be really be taken on board, and can play an important role in the transition journey. Select the lighthouse projects to find out the programs which can really give the right level of business benefits, which are easy to adapt, to see that how ready the site is for this change, what are the constraints which sites may have, how much site is ready to adapt those changes, and finally create a roadmap which considering all four aspects of people, process, technology, and data, to ensure that we have a very robust roadmap towards implementing those lighthouse projects and subsequently converting those lighthouse projects into a complete program. While we do this journey, another very important aspect is reflection. Once we have the implementation roadmap, it's important that at every stage of this implementation journey, we see that what benefits we have achieved, and whether the things are getting changed, and do we need to reflect those changes into the original plan. So reflection is also very important on this implementation journey. Depending on your transition journey, what you would like to achieve, there could be different kind of assessment which you could conduct. It could start from a very holistic assessment, which is a complete asset management assessment, and the scope is defined as per ISO 55000. And it could be a very specific assessment like EAM, SAP assessment, or master data assessment, or a very customized assessment based on your requirement. To further talk about the key considerations on your digital journey, I would like to hand it over to Hamian to take it forward.
Yes, thank you, Shubham. So where Shubham explained to you about how to start the journey, I'm going to go and dive a bit deeper on the next steps. What considerations you could have at the start of such a journey? What's involved, and from there on into some specific steps on how to structure the approach. So let me click on that. Oh, there it comes. So what to consider during such a transition? A few aspects. The ones, and I'm going to highlight a few of them in the next slides, but industry standards certainly play a role. Not just industry standards, you could also say engineering standards, any specific or common definitions basically on how to build a data model, how to exchange data between parties, how to really name and standardize, use standardized language, so to speak. Certainly would help in coming up with a digital twin model, data model, and data exchange, help facilitate data exchange. So aligning to an industry standard which is applicable for your industry certainly makes sense. And one of the next slides, I'm also going to dive a bit further into that topic. Now, KPIs and metrics, I think in general goes that if you know where you are, you can conduct an assess or a self-assessment. It also really helps that you can actually visualize your performance, either in processes, either in asset data or the performance of your assets. Visualizing something is certainly a foundation for some continuous improvement. Not being able to know how fast you drive doesn't allow you to stick to the rules. Change readiness, Shubham already mentioned it. Don't go in and assume that the one as is assessment on one plant, if you're a multinational with several plants, that the performance of that plant is representative for the rest. So really assess specifically how ready the departments or the plants are. Tools and templates helping, and we will show a few of them later on. You make use, certainly if assessments is a topic, it helps in replicating if you've got some good tools and templates available. And the last one, the good practices. If you have any, please use them. There are lots of experience, there's lots of experience in the company probably, and certainly also outside. Please make good use of that, and we by definition do not call them best practices, because I think in these kind of data land and considering complexity, it's very hard to say, okay, well, if you do it this way, that's the best way for everybody. So there is a nuance in that, and good practice, I think, better covers that challenge. So for this one, diving into, and I think the system is a bit slow, so next. Yeah, there it comes. If we dive into the industry standards, this is an overview again by industry segment and by category aspects, so to speak, within the asset management domain. Which standards are out there and available. There's too many to mention and to specifically go through at the moment, but the general message is that these standards apply also for a different purpose. For example, the ISO 55000 is a very holistic, provides a very holistic view and definitions over the asset management domain. Really useful to use as an umbrella for your organization, for your processes, but for example, does not specifically contain data models on how you should actually structure your digital twin, or how to exchange on field level information with other parties using the same language, so to speak. So according, if you want to have a look at data model in dictionaries, there's other standards that apply that actually contain those dictionaries, these standardized dictionaries. as well as standards that apply for a topic like how to go about and how to organize yourselves around topics as reliability improvements, if we talk the ISO 14224, which is a more generic standard that describes on how to manage asset reliability and associated aspects. So the general message is, for different purposes, different standards. So there's unfortunately not one standard that covers it all. And also be aware that these standards provide some guidance, some standardization, which is really useful, but there are still within those boundaries choices to be made. There's options to choose and choices to be made. So be aware that it's not just as simple as saying, I follow the standard and I'm there. There are certainly content and knowledge and aspects to weigh. One specific example I took more for the energy and utilities industry segment, or a bit focused there. There's basically two asset life cycle, so to speak. One is there from the asset owner point of view, the companies that actually own the assets and earn their money by the products or the added value that those assets produce. That's the asset life cycle on the higher value stream. Or you have the companies that actually build assets and deliver assets to companies to use them, and to the above mentioned companies, who are more managing those assets from a product lifecycle point of view. Basically, it's the same type of approach. It involves a similar type of data model. It's just a different way of where those companies add value to the asset lifecycle. So if you take those two above, and here at the bottom, there's actually the connecting, being able to connect with the OT domain, so the data domain, the hardware, so to speak, of the assets that produce sensor data. So that's also where asset data is coming available. And if you then look to what standard could you apply, well, for the improvement of asset performance, the ISO 14224 could play a role to describe on what processes apply, and to a certain extent what, for example, reliability codes are available, or catalog codes, as we call them, cause codes, malfunction or failure modes are applicable, and how to manage them and how to set them up is described in the ISO 14224. However, the ISO 14224 does not cover any data models or any guidance across a sensor data domain. So if you want to exchange information between, for example, a manufacturer or supplier, the companies that actually are in the bottom part of the flow, the ISO 15926 actually provides a data dictionary, basically a language on how to store equipment attributes or product asset attributes, and how to name them in a unified language. And if you use that same language also from the owner operator point of view, it obviously would make communication across asset information a lot easier, since they use the same standard and the same wording. So if we talk power specific for a specific pump, and we're talking the attribute of power, then using that same language, we at least make sure that we talk about the same thing. And that's an important concept if you talk about maintaining asset data across the life cycle and being able to collaborate around asset with other parties outside of your own company or organization. Also, another takeaway is that you need to be aware that you're actually climbing a maturity ladder. So there is lots of, and Sopam already mentioned quite a few of the challenges around IT complexity, around organizational maturity, process maturity. So you need to be aware that these kind of things are basically a journey. So this is a continuous journey. So you need to be aware of where you are on that journey. You need to have an ambition on where to go, and you constantly need to be making sure that you're doing the right things in order to take the next step. And lots of our customers basically ask us to say, okay, well, there is lots of things to do. I know that I need to improve on lots of different aspects, but where should I start? So it's very hard to make sense of where you are and where you want to be, but also then to decide what makes sense to do first. What are the things and the steps I need to take, or are those the steps that I need to do in any given scenario? And do they actually give the value or the assurance that I actually am moving up the ladder and that I don't close any future innovation doors? So you want to make sure that you do the right things and also be able to build on that for the next phase. One of the examples, if we talk tools on master data, the means of visualizing data status. In this case, it just is a very straightforward analysis or indication of where the data fields are filled within functional locations in an SAP instance. But visualizing data, visualizing performance is a key element in being able to motivate people basically to do something about it. If they see something is wrong, what can we do about that? And actually being able to see and visualize that the action that was taken, the improvement action that was taken, results in better situation is a very important means. And luckily SAP and all kinds of other IT systems allow very well to analyze data, and with current and modern technology also visualize that very well. So there's a lot of potential in analysis and visualizing performance. And one of the other means is that if Shubham talked about assessments, also assessments, you can standardize, you can document the questions, the aspects, the criteria that you want to have assessed or assess against, and you can visualize performance on all aspects relating to asset management, so to speak, and or use of, for example, an SAP system in this sense, or a document management system, wherever you place that. And these are just a few aspects, but having these tools available really would help also over the years on that continuous improvement journey. Now, how should, if you then know where you are, having done the assessment, having some kind of visioning around where you want to go, how to take those steps and build into a roadmap. First of all, I think it's very important to realize that the majority of those systems, and although it's all systems, all tools, we even talked about digital twins or physical equipment generating data automatically, we still believe at Rizing that any successful implementation of anything in this context is about people. So it starts about people, having people in the center that actually see benefits of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to improve, so that you start to understand, they start to understand why it's important to change and actually start using the system or the method or the tools. What we found is that in a lot of cases, although the technology is there, it still lacks, and companies are not getting the max out of their systems because people do not use it properly, or are reluctant to use it, or have obstacles or whatever. And there can be multiple aspects to it. So that's the center, and around that you can organize yourselves around setting up your organization to successfully do whatever you want to do on that roadmap that we showed. So before that, basically in everything you do, in every activity that will be on the roadmap, it's important to realize that this dynamic is ongoing, and for each step you need to think about how can I tap into people's intrinsic motivation in order to get that ball moving, how to involve people, how to ensure that they can actually can do what you ask them to do or ask them to change. Another one, part of the assessment will already be that you assess what the ongoing, what the organizational readiness is. If you do one assessment on one side, please do not fall into the trap that you assume that the same performance and same aspects also apply to other sides. So make sure that you know what's going on in the organization. What's the initiative pipeline? What are the projects in there? What is their business case? So that you can assess if conditions change, or which projects are still providing value, and which projects to postpone or even cancel. And build those and take those initiatives into your implementation roadmap into account. From the assessment, you have an insight on where your opportunities are, whether that being in one of those areas, maintenance and operation, execution, and how to optimize a more efficient or more effective processing of work, either maintenance work, preventive, corrective, and what kind of opportunities there are to use technology, to use SAP. The same applies with the asset performance management and predictability topic. Yes, new technology available, but also there the digital twin is basically crucial in order to tie all those data pools together and being able to predict a performance and actually come to an outcome of that prediction in the sense of triggered workflows, triggered follow-up work, somebody taking an action before it actually breaks down is crucial here. Same applies with projects and turnarounds. All aspects, there will be opportunities arising which you can exploit. So be aware of them, and the assessment and an assessment will provide clarity on those aspects. So from here, actions will arise. So if you know where you are, currently are, and can formulate a current state, and you know where you want to go, what's your ambition? Ambition or might be driven from external constraints, or where you need to go. Then relating to master data, there's basically two categories that you can categorize your work in. The one is to identify, to clean up any data in order to close any data gaps. And the other one is activities that you need to embark on to sustain data being kept clean. So the master data governance processes. The constant, Shubham mentioned the constant change in data. As an organization, you need to be able to manage that constant change. A timeline, and then basically listing any of the improvement, the gaps from the assessment, and turn them into improvement activities, improvement topics. What do I need to do, what process do I need to improve in order to take the next step? And obviously from there, any future innovations. Since there probably will be many, from there, it's the key is to not just say, okay, well, there is an improvement opportunity there, but what can I actually do about that? And in many companies, that will result in projects, new projects that need to be chartered, approved, business case approved, implemented in order to realize the envisaged improvement. But since there are many, there's also a need to manage these kind of things as a program. There's interactions, there's interconnectivity between projects. There's also interdependencies between projects. So it's actually important to realize that in order to organize yourselves around managing that, that is a it's a journey, and there's lots of activities. It's not just saying I fill this data gap, I clean up my material master, and I'm done. You need to make sure that that material master keeps clean for any new equipment that you might buy, and that for future reference, you will might also have the ambition to enable some new technology to reap the benefits from. So therefore also that interconnection line needs to be managed. So for that, in an organization, these projects need to be organized. This is typical program management setup, where you have operationally running your projects, for which there's a project lead and a business owner or sponsor, and they do whatever they need to do in order to make that project a success. Obviously, if you need to run multiple projects as an organization, you need to ensure that the project are interconnected and managed well, so that the one deliverable is actually input for the other one, or so to speak. So you need some kind of means to manage that as a program and see the project results going up into the organization, and the central or strategic sponsorship that needs to be there in order to keep on that journey, keep on that direction, and also organize some constant communication in order to keep the ball rolling, and to inform the organization on the changes or the results being achieved. And another one of those things, or if you need to set up your program organization, please think of a good design for that program, the program management within the organization. The GPRI model is actually very suitable. We tend to, in normal waterfall projects or a project level, do a RACI. What I actually like better around the GPRI model is the interpersonal part. So it's just not just assessing around the goals, what kind of project roles there are, and how to manage or organize yourselves in the process, but it certainly also is around people and how they personally interact. So in order to focus more on the team development in your organization, and to the top, make sure that you take away obstacles. So you diagnose issues or obstacles, and as a management in the organization, within the program management team or in the strategic board, it's all about taking away obstacles. And then I believe this is one of my last slides, the implementation roadmap in relation to continuous improvement. We already mentioned that it's a program, it's a journey. So there will also be continuous improvement happening, and you want to take that on board. It's not just statically thinking about your roadmap. This is it, plot it out in 5 years' time, and just during those 5 years stick to your original plan. It's also around going about with continuous progressing insights, and you want to involve people to come up with ideas to improve their business. If there's smart, low effort ideas, please just do them. If there is more complex ideas or that will require more effort, you somehow need to have a means to collect those, to work those up. You can call that in a hopper, some kind of collection mechanism, that you have all improvement ideas and the really big ones that result in lots of improvement, that you tackle those and actually can feed them into the improvement projects that you already have in your roadmap, so that you've also got a means to handle continuous improvement during that journey, and not just focus on delivering projects that you already have the budget for, or so it needs to go hand in hand, and some kind of mechanism to handle both. And I believe that's where you come in as well, Shubham.
Yes, thank you, Hamian. Let me just switch to the next slide. So in this section, I just want to briefly talk about SAP. As most of the organizations, more than 50% of the organizations are making use of SAP ERP and enterprise asset management. And the power of SAP is that it's very much integrated platform, and it is actually at the core of our business processes, be it is a plant maintenance process, asset management, financial costing process. So SAP is actually very important to most of the organizations. And so how you can make utilization of SAP towards your digital twin agenda and towards that journey. We talked about your physical asset, we talked about the digital twin, the representation of your asset digitally into the system. Traditionally, we see that SAP is there as a core, where SAP being used for the maintenance planning and scheduling, maintenance execution using plant maintenance module, doing your inventory management, materials management using materials management module, project and portfolio management, environmental health safety is very strong in SAP, and overall data governance, which also includes your complicated data of GIS, linear asset management, and other and all the asset related data, which can be governed very efficiently using master data governance capabilities of SAP, asset information workbench, and in order to collaborate further using asset intelligence network. If we add this digital core with the intelligent asset management modules of SAP, that's where we are really taking a step change from a base which has been created in a very robust manner in SAP using all the core modules and utilizing the power of intelligent asset management on top of digital core. And so what do you mean by this? So for example, we are talking about here SAP asset strategy and performance management, where you can do a complete maintenance strategy end to end, doing your RCM, you doing your FMEAs, criticality assessments within SAP itself. We are talking about doing a predictive maintenance using SAP predictive assets insight. We are talking about mobility. You are empowering your maintenance technicians on the field with all the details available in their mobile device, rather than available or using or they use in paper-based systems and quite disintegrated data. They have everything on their mobile device. As I talked about, collaborating between different parties using asset intelligence network, and overall having a common data model using the asset central foundation. So with this ecosystem which SAP offers, it makes your core asset management very strong, and you are utilizing the latest technologies to ensure that your organization is making a step change from where you are today. Hamyan, would you like to add this before you talk about the Asset Central Foundation?
I think you said it pretty much. Keep in mind that this is something to take in the back of your mind whilst plotting your roadmap to the future, because lots of things that you will probably find now in one of the challenges maintained is that you're also not getting the full the max return out of your current core system, or that you maybe have some data challenges in your core system. So in the roadmap, these are the activities to address, and that will allow or enable the switching on basically to these kind of new technologies that are available, and you can already switch them on. But you need to be aware of what the effect will be or the implication will be of addressing some of the gaps and challenges in your core as well, or maybe in some cases first. Yes, and this is a schematic display. The two big blocks in the previous slide, where you have the core systems and the intelligent asset management platform sitting in the cloud. In order to connect them, SAP offers a central or a standard synchronization means and an asset repository, which they called Asset Central Foundation. Which basically visualizes in the bottom part of the screen some of the data objects in SAP, master data objects in SAP. By the way, not just master data objects, but also transactional data, for example, the maintenance work orders. And it allows you to, with a very robust an automated synchronization mechanism, to push those, to extend basically the data model to the cloud solution set in Asset Central Foundation. So you basically can very easily synchronize and have a full sync also after that one-off synchronization with the same objects sitting in the cloud environment. And obviously the cloud environment offers more and better capabilities to, for example, collaborate around master data with external parties, i.e. service providers, OEMs, share data on that platform by means of the asset intelligence network, or for example, on that platform, use the predictive capabilities of predictive assets insights solution set. Analyze it, come up with a workflow, set up the triggers, combine it with sensor data flowing into that environment, and of course, again, trigger something to happen in the core following the signal, the predictive signal in the solution set on the cloud. And another and the last opportunity in the cloud, there is the asset strategy and performance management, and SAP now finally also offers the capability to produce and to manage basically maintenance concepts, asset criticality assessments, FMEA, RCM type of assessments, even with partner extensions, risk-based inspection capabilities, and link it to that common data model. So basically, the Asset Central Foundation represents very well the concept of the common data model that can be extended and used for the purposes as just described.
Perfect. Thank you, Hamyan. So this is the last slide which we have over here. Overall, we are talking about the best utilization of our processes, of our people, the best available technology and data to ensure that our business processes are much more efficient. We are getting the best result out of our investment. We are tracking it. We are ensuring that we are moving towards a better, more efficient and effective organization. And the value which can be unleashed using doing a proper digital transformation is quite large. And some of them we have highlighted over here, which range from high quality of products and services, the high customer satisfaction, excellent management of maintenance efforts, increased asset reliability and uptime, efficient resource planning and utilization, increased productivity of asset management processes, efficient preventive, condition-based, and predictive maintenance. So with this, many thanks for attending our session. We are now open for Q&A. Over to you.
Lovely. Thank you, Shubham, and very well presented, gentlemen, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, actually. So we've had a flood of questions. We are running out of time, unfortunately, but this is an opportunity for anybody to post some questions in the chat box, so feel free to do so. I'm going to ask Julia to unmute herself and be very choosy and pick just a couple of the questions that have been submitted. Can we have the first one, please, Julia, and then I'll hand off to who I think is the best person to handle that one.
Sure, Andy, we will do. The first question, what is the significance of change readiness during an assessment?
Okay, so the significance of change readiness during an assessment. I think, Shubham, that's probably one for you as our asset expert.
Yeah, I'll try to answer this, Andy. Thanks for the question. Very nice question, important question, actually. Because when we do an assessment, we typically see the as a situation, we focus on future state, and sometimes we overlook actually into the site's constraints or site specific requirements. We see that this is a lighthouse. This could be a lighthouse project, and this is a low-hanging fruit. But actually, we are looking at from a distance. When we really go close to the tree, we see that it's not low-hanging. There's a reason why site is not able to capitalize on it all these years. So it's very important to really get to the base, get to the root cause analysis of whatever transformations which we are proposing, and understand that from the change point of view, how much site is ready, where they need support. Ultimately, it's about the site, that they are reaping the benefits of all these investments which is happening. So so it's so from our core pillars of people, technology, data, and processes, it's important to really focus on the change readiness of the client of the site, list down all the important factors, see the initiatives which are happening, where they are, how we can bring everyone on board. If you're doing a maintenance related initiative, it's also important to take finance also on board, procurement also on board, because they are also having a quite a significant interface with maintenance activities. So change readiness is about ensuring that we consider all the adjacencies, in all the related aspects, and then holistically approaching towards the transformation, rather than overlooking the things which are very important for the successful to making this whole transformation a success.
And I think that's a really good answer, Shubham, that whilst we talk about technology and processes, let's not forget the end users, the people in this, and for them to be ready for the change is really important to get the most out of the system and to realise the maximum benefits. So yeah, great answer, thank you. Conscious of time, Julia, you're going to have to be really picky and just choose one more question for us, please.
Yes. I found one really interesting one. Why can't we just use ISO 55000 and be done?
Yeah, if only it was that simple. Probably a good one for Hamyan there, and I'll ask for a quick answer for Hamyan on why can't we just use ISO 55000 and we're done.
Yeah, that would be very nice. And I think in some cases there's really a perception in companies that indeed having a certification even, or using a standard as a means to improve all. But I think it needs to be very much an awareness that the standards does provide help, does provide structure, does provide definitions, and especially the ISO 55000 is a very nice generic umbrella basically for everything in asset management. But it does not, if you talk, for example, about digital twin, it does not give specific data models on how you should structure your data. It does not give you specific guidance around data attributes, how to name them. It gives a holistic framework on how to organize yourselves, how to name the aspects to it, and also cover all the aspects into the Plan, Do, Check, Act of around asset improvement. So it's the nuance. The devil is in the nuance in this case.
Brilliant, and thank you for the short answer. I'd hate to hear the long answer. Beautifully articulated, thank you. Yeah. I'm going to wrap up now as we reach the top of the hour. I want to thank our presenters today for all of the effort that they put in today's presentation. We will make the YouTube link available should you want to talk to yourself and watch this again, and that will be sent out to all of the attendees. I want to thank all the attendees for dialing in and spending an hour with us today. We're very grateful for your time. If you'd like any further information, I believe our contact details might appear on the screen very shortly. If not, again, you'll get a follow-up email. And thank you for Julia in the background, who's been pedaling very hard to make sure the technology doesn't let us down. So as we reach the top of the hour, thank you very much, everybody. Really enjoyed it and hope to see you at our next webinar session. Thank you.